Hi, good morning, and welcome back to the Kristin Omdahl Show. Whoops, the sun's right in my eyes. Why did I do it that way? Hold on a second. Can we still see the sign that way? Maybe. Okay. We could move the sign, I guess. Or move everything. Whatever. There. Hi. Good morning and welcome back to the Kristin Omdahl Show. This is episode 1034 and we are live in Southwest Florida at the beach. This is the beautiful Gulf of Mexico behind me. If you are joining me live, please say hello. Let me know if you're crafting this morning. Let me know if you have questions for me. Hi Lisa. Hi Diane and Suzanne, Wendy, Thea, Lori, Irene. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Lily and Hosam and Helen and Marcia. Hi, everybody. Happy Tuesday. Welcome back to the Kristin Omdahl Show. This is episode 1034. Hi, Kathy and Lily and Christine. Good morning, everybody. Hi, Judy. Hope everybody's having a good day so far. Anybody crafting so far? Anybody work on something fun last night or since the last time we spoke? Hi, Sunshine, Leona. Good morning, Grace, Nancy, Joe. Hi, everybody. Hi, Stacy. Hi, Judy. Karen's putting squares together a poncho last night. And it is blocking right now. I forgot to weigh it before I blocked it, which means now I can't weigh it to the yardage until it's dry because if it's wet, it's going to be inaccurate because of the added. But I did not because I did my out of sequence, and so now I can't do the yardage and all that. And all those measurements until I can weigh it after it dries. So I made one small mistake, and the ripple effect is that I lose a day in the design process. That's okay. It'll be fine. Hi, Brenda. So after that, I was starting to think about all the different ways that you can extract information out of a top-down triangular shawl. And I thought I might go some of that with the board this morning and show you an example as well. So taking a stitch pattern and manipulating it into different shapes with different types of increases so that you can do different things. So just to recap what a top-down triangular shawl is, generally speaking, is double increases down the center spine and single increases on each side of the triangle. And I'll bring out my board and show you that in a second. So once you have that information, you actually have a lot of other information. If you can recognize it in the charts or the written instructions, knowing what the single increase is gives you the ability to make other things, and knowing what the double increase is from that one pattern will also give you other possibilities. So what does that mean? So if you are making let's say you're making a raglan pullover, but you're making it in pieces, then you could start by making flat pieces and do single increases on either side of your yoke if you wanted to do them separate. If you wanted to do a top-down raglan pullover with the 4 raglan corners in the round, you would need the double increases. So either way that you wanted to make a garment in that stitch pattern, you actually have the information in a top-down triangular shawl to have options for making it as a garment. Also, in a top-down triangular shawl, you could also extract the information with those double increases to work in the round if you wanted to, say, do a square or a hexagon. A square would be 4 sets of those double increases, just like a raglan, but without a neck hole opening. And then even a hexagon with 6 double increases. So let's pull out the board and go over that. the couple, because if it's everybody, then it could be me, YouTube, and if it's just a couple, then I'm going to suggest that it's your own internet connection and to try refreshing. All right, this is low, so let's see if we can bend this down a little bit, a lot of it there. Oh, make sure that, there we go, make sure the camera stays in the shade. All right, I think we're good to go. Okay, so you have a top-down triangular shawl that starts. Okay, these lines indicate that as it's growing from the top down, you're doing double increases down the center, and you're doing single increases down the sides, and that's how it's growing as you go. Okay? Now, because of that, you have this information, and this information that you can use for a variety of things. So knowing what that double increase is here, you could start in the round and 4 sets of those double increases. And that would give, and that, I mean, I can stop it if it's too much, you guys. I mean, there's not much I can do. It's either YouTube, it's either my connection here or your connection there. If you want me to keep going, I will. And if it's too upsetting, then, I mean, I don't know what to tell you. You tell me. Wait and see. All right, I don't see any comments now, so I guess I'll just keep going. All right. You know, unfortunately, there's not much I can do about it if there's bad connection. Okay, so that once you have that double increase, you have that information to do with lots of other things, including doing a motif or a square that's increasing. You could extract that double increase in the pattern here and apply it 4 times to do a square. What's interesting about this poncho that I'm working on right now is that you're getting even more information than that. So in the poncho, I'm doing a top-down triangular shawl, growing it out in that direction, and then I'm doing two decrease triangles on the sides of it, going in this direction with single decreases on each side. Okay, so in this one we did a double increase in the center and a single increase on each side. Then in the same, then you can people upset, like, oh my goodness. Okay, so in the triangle portion, this is for the Isabella poncho that's not out yet, but coming very soon. In this pattern, we're taking a stitch pattern and we're doing a double increase down the center, a single increase down the sides to create the triangle, and then in these 2 decreasing triangles here to create the rectangle. Then it's a single decrease along the sides here, and all within the stitch pattern. There's a lot of information that you can glean from this, believe it or not, besides just doing this poncho, which is amazing. So what happens is that we've got all of these. I'll show you when we see it again, and you'll see all those lines, and then the pattern ends up matching in those because we do it all in stitch pattern. Been able to take this to start a baby blanket, working in the rounded increases with 4 of those double increases. And then what is a single increase? A single increase is a single versus a double, meaning you're increasing 1 and not instead of 2. Okay? If you've done any type of top-down triangular shawls before, you've done single increases on the sides and doubles in the center. Okay, so you have options even within doing this as a baby blanket. And I'll show you the example that I started. So I used the same stitch pattern as I did in the Isabella poncho, and I'm using it to start this baby blanket in working a square in the round, which means I'm working in the round but doing 4 sets of double increases to create a square. Now I even have options within this. I could continue and just do it as a square like that, or or I could also do those triangular decreased triangles like I did on here, on there as well. Wouldn't that be cool? Square and use it as a diamond and then do decreases on each side of it to create a different set of four lines. I'm using I'm using Viso Baby number 3 DK weight yarn, and I doubled it with a crochet hook. So this is DK weight doubled, and I'm using a K or 6.5 millimeter. And this is all based on if you can recognize and extract this information from a pattern. And if you can, I'm telling you that what I'm trying to explain is if you can do that sort of thing and extract it from a pattern, patterns are actually a lot more valuable to you than you may have realized, because you can take this information from one pattern and apply it to others. If this does not make sense to you, that's okay. That is the reason why my 21st book is coming out and why I would like to go in that direction for a while, because I would like other people to be able to have this information even if they can't see it or figure it out from a pattern. Yes, the book is going to just actually spell it all out for you, so that, and the reason why I'm telling you all this is because some people see this already, and that's fine, and not everybody does. And if you don't, that's why it's great to know designers who love math and love figuring stuff out. But if you don't, that's okay too. Welcome, Kimberly. Wait and see if there's any questions. One of the other designs that I like to do with triangular shawls is taking two. So let's say that's your triangular shawl. You know how sometimes I join 2 triangular shawls together? You could do that and join them as motifs for a number of shapes as well. So let's call this the long side. This long side up here ends up going on the outside if you're doing it for joining them for a different kind of shawl. This is like my original dragonfly shawl, and the amaryllis shawl was done this way. And that's where, here's your top-down construction, right? It goes in this direction. Can you see that those are this triangle just turned on their sides, so that this is where you begin and this is where it grows, and that V of the longest line at the end, 1/2 of it gets joined to the triangle next to it, and then this long side ends up being the 2 halves of the joining of one side of 2 triangles. Okay, now you could also apply this to doing a square. Imagine, I'm going to try to draw this. Let's see. So then it would be boom, 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 boom. So even if you wanted to do this modularly and do all 4 of your triangles separate, and when I show you the direction of these, think about this in variegated yarn or self-striping yarn, or doing your own kind of color work. Can you see how if you match them that you could actually make a type of a gradient look on your own? Yeah, very similar. This a lot of the geometry of quilting is the same in crochet when it comes to joining modularly or joining motifs. A lot of that can be applied the same. Yes, you could absolutely take a quilt pattern and make motifs to size for that pattern and join them together as well. You know, you can be inspired by tile work, you can be inspired by tile design, you can be inspired by quilt design, you can be inspired by sewing design, you can be inspired by nature and textures and patterns in nature. There's so many different ways to glean inspiration from all sorts of other mediums, not just crochet. You know, you don't have to look at other crochet pieces to get inspired to make something in crochet. In fact, I prefer to do just the opposite. I prefer to get inspiration from anywhere else besides what else has been done in crochet. Yeah, you never know if this is going to spark something for somebody. So again, if you know how to do a top-down triangular shawl, and let's say you're making one and you love it, make 4 of them and join them together to make a blanket. You could do it. Isn't that cool? Lori, great question. Would the dragonfly shawl look good in a variegated yarn, or would the motif get lost? It depends on the variegated yarn, it depends on the length of the colors, it depends on the level of contrast between the colors. If you did something that was low contrast or analogous colors or colors that blend together well, I think that the stitch pattern would not get lost. I think in a high contrast it could, but there's exceptions to every rule. The number one recommendation I have is to do a swatch and see what you think, because it could be, it could work or it couldn't work, but you won't know until you try. And it's because you won't know until you see how long those color stripes are within the gauge that you're working. So on any given yarn, it doesn't really matter how long the stripe is on its own, it matters how long the stripe is in addition to your gauge. So how long that stripe is on a 1mm crochet hook is a lot different than how long that stripe is going to be with a 6mm or a 10mm crochet hook. Does that make sense? And if you're going to double the yarn like this, the amount of variegation that's showing here is a lot more than what you would see if this was singular. I doubled it, so that means there's 2 different patterns going on within the color, and that actually makes it busier, but sometimes it tones down the contrast as well. Does that make sense? So there are, you know, I wrote that blog post and published it yesterday about yarn substitution, and although I did give suggestions at the end for lots of different yarn companies that have similar weights, similar blends that could be, that I would say would make good substitutions for my yarns. However, it's the information at the beginning of the blog post that is invaluable for all crafters, all people that work with yarn, because there is so much that goes into considering a yarn. And I don't even know if I talked about color and variegated in there, because honestly that's a whole different subject in itself, and we could go on and on for a long time. But like I said, because there is so much information and there are so many ways that it can vary the look of even a variegated yarn, do a gauge swatch with whatever hook or needle you're going to use, knit or crochet, and with your own personal tension, block it, see how it works up, see if you like the drape, because you're still looking to see if you like the yarn in the first place anyway. So everything about yarn substitution applies to begin with, because, and let me take that a step further back, everything that I wrote in that blog post about yarn substitution is just about yarn in general, right? Is it in your budget? Is it in the type of fibers that you like? Is it in the kind of colors you like? Is it the weight that you need for whatever project you want to make? Like, all of that is a given, whether you're substituting or starting fresh, regardless, right? And then you do add color, right? Is it a color that you like or that's going to work for your project? Is it a combination of colors that's going to work? And then if the yarn is variegated, not only do you have to consider how long the stripe is, but how long is that stripe based on the gauge that you're doing, and then based on the pattern. And is the pattern going to get lost in the color work, or is the color work going to get lost in the pattern? And which one would you prefer? Sometimes you may prefer focusing on the variegated color work of a design more than you would want to focus on the stitch work. So maybe the dragonfly shawl is a bad example for this. So let's look at the Isabella stitch pattern here. What would you rather focus on? And it's too bad I didn't have the lime right next to me, because it would be really good. We'll do this tomorrow then when that one's dry. You'll see that the stitch pattern is more prominent looking in the other one because the color is solid. But it's not that it's invisible here. It's still there and it's still pretty, but it is subdued by the beautiful color work as well. I'm really loving these colors together. It's going to be a gorgeous baby blanket. You know, Judy, that might be helpful, and it might be helpful information, but still it's going, you know, it's probably not a precise process. It's probably not as precise as we might think it is, and it might vary per color. Some colors, I believe, in variegated colors are longer than other colors in the pattern, in the color work pattern, so it might be more complicated to write than they can, and there might be a lot of variation. I'm not, you know, especially if it's hand dyed, obviously there's going to be a more variation, but it might not be as precise as it can be for writing on the ball, and that's why I'm saying that it is so important to swatch. That's another reason why it's so important to swatch, and I know everybody doesn't like to hear that, but I'm telling you, it saves you so much hassles, tears, and stress in the end. All right, does anybody have any questions? I think this is a great conversation we're having, and no such thing as a bad question. Ask me anything. I'm happy to help if I can. As I'm looking, I've moved my camera how many times and I'm still looking directly in the sun. Like, how do I do that? Not focusing, I guess. Okay, oh, and today I'm going to be releasing the left-hand tutorial video for the dragonfly shawl. So if you prefer left-hand instruction, that video will come out later today. And then after that, I am going to do a separate video for the edging, because the edging is one of those where you turn direction multiple times within one row, and it's really awesome. I think a lot of you are going to really like it, but I think it might help to see a visual along with the written instructions and the chart, simply because if you're not familiar with going back and forth within a given row, what's the best way to join? The best way to join what, Catherine? So I don't know if that video will be out today or not. I will work on it today, but it'll be out this week for sure. And in the meantime, the left-hand tutorial of the beginning first video will be out today. If you want a triangle more like angel wings, do you double on the ends and in the middle? Maybe. You know, everything is really contingent on what stitch pattern you're using. One of the things that I like to use on the ends of shawls in that single increase on the sides here is if my sides are not stretching out enough, I would elongate your stitches here. Let's say your stitch pattern is based on a double crochet type of a stitch. So you start with a chain 3 to count as a double, and on the other end you end your row with doubles. What I would do is maybe change the stitches in your corners to treble versions of that, or whatever stitch is done there, I would change it to a longer stitch to create more volume in your increases, and that could give you that elongated look that you're talking about if you're looking for a butterfly, you know, a wing effect. Sometimes that helps, and again, it depends on the stitch pattern. You could also do the double increases there. That might work as well, but again, it's just based on the stitch pattern and trial and error, which is what knitting and crochet is all about, is trying things out, seeing what works, seeing what doesn't work, and making your choices from there. Hello, the Secret Yarnery. Hi, Krista. Yes, the beach is beautiful. In fact, let's take a look at the whole beach. It's beautiful today. It's quite busy here still, but the line wasn't ridiculous to get in, so I am at Wiggins Pass. I made it in here. And I'm at parking area 4, my favorite. There's our beloved Driftwood Forest up ahead. It's super busy up there, so I'm not gonna go into the super busy spots till spring break is over. I was kind of inspired to go for a walk today. Thanks, Jan. Like down to the inlet, but it's too busy. And I don't want to get parents upset that I'm recording. I just don't want any of that. I'll wait till the beach is quiet again next month. But can you see all the people? Look at all the people down there. The tide is definitely out today. Look at how much we have. Definitely have a low tide. All right. All right. Did anybody see what somebody asked me best way to join? Does anybody see if she elaborated and said what she meant? Yeah, the water's a lot clearer today because the waves are a lot calmer than they were. Yeah, too. All right. Did anybody catch the question that she asked when she was talking about? Oh, she's talking about best way to join granny squares. Okay. Again, this has to do with stitch patterns used. Depends on what the last round was made in. If the last round was solid double crochet, you might have you might want to consider some sewing methods as well as crocheting methods. But if there's any amount of chain spaces on that last round, I think it's way easier to join them as you go. So if you have a chain 3 on this side, it would be chain 1, slip stitch, chain 1 on this side. Let's draw it. As long as I've got the board here, I may as well draw instead of demonstrate on my hands, right? But yeah, if you have any amount of chain spaces, I think that that's ideal when you're joining. So let's say you have a single crochet, chain 3, and single crochet on the side of this motif. On the one next to it, it would be single crochet, chain 1, slip stitch into that chain 3 space opposite, chain 1, and single crochet. And that's a very, very strong join when you can slip stitch into something. Also, you can do that even if it is a solid row of double crochet. I've done this on lots of patterns before. Let's say, how much of this board can we see? I think we're going to have to turn it around. Let's say that one motif ends with a line of double crochet, right? Can you see that? And let's say you're doing a motif over here, double crochet. I would slip stitch to the adjacent one, do your next double crochet, slip stitch to the adjacent, next double crochet, slip stitch. We've done this in patterns before. You do not have to sew them together if you don't want to. Now, if you like to sew, there's lots of great sewing techniques. If you like an exposed seam, you can do slip stitch, surface crochet, and create like a piped edge. If you want an invisible join, crocheting them together is very strong and very smooth. I think it actually blends into the stitch pattern really well, or even sometimes creates its own secondary pattern. So there are lots of options. It depends on your personal preference, maybe what the pattern calls for, or what the construction of the actual motifs are. But lots and lots of ways to join motifs together. Even if the pattern you're using doesn't have something that seems easy to do on the edge, you could still add your own extra round. You could add a single crochet, chain 3, single crochet mesh around a motif, just so that you would have something to join into going as you're joining the additional motifs. Does that make sense? So even if the pattern doesn't give you an option, you can make your own options too, whether it's by crocheting or slip stitching or doing any type of sewing techniques. Hi, Pratashka. Pratiksha, I think I said it right now, I'm sorry. It's very small. The names are really small. Does that make sense? Good. Does anybody have any other questions? I hope you got some good information this morning. And like I said, we'll talk about this some more when I have this, when my samples are dry. All right, who would like to see a quote? I am going to randomly pick a quote from Notebook Volume 1, Issue 1 of the Create, Share, Inspire notebooks. You can find these on my website. You can also find them on Amazon all over the world. They are creative writing journals that I have curated with beautiful inspirational quotes opposite each page of all 7 journals. And this is page 22 of Volume 1, Issue 1. This is from Abraham Lincoln. Everybody loves a compliment. Yes, they do. This is something that I practice often, especially with strangers. I love surprising a stranger in the grocery store or at the gas station or wherever I am. I love surprising people with compliments because they never see it coming. I was at my storage unit yesterday and I met a really nice lady there, and we ended up having a lovely conversation and even exchanged phone numbers because we were going through similar things, which I would imagine anytime I strike up a conversation at my storage unit, I'm going to be meeting someone who's equally as stressed and emotional and frazzled and working hard. So we bonded over a few things. And but it started because I gave her a compliment. I loved her dress. And that's always an easy one for me. If I love what someone is wearing, I am first in line to tell them that I love it. And she had a beautiful t-shirt dress on. It was like a t-shirt but longer to make it a dress, and it was black, and she looked so cute in it. And that's how we started talking. So thank you, Abraham Lincoln. I got you. I do this all the time, and it is 100% true. Yes, everybody loves a compliment. Yes. So, yes, if you haven't complimented yourself in a while, you could always go in front of the mirror and give any compliment there. That's a good idea too. But maybe when you're out and about and you see something that you like, behavior, belongings, something they say, something they do, beautiful color eyes, you can always compliment a stranger too, and you'd be amazed at how often you can see someone's face light up because they didn't see it coming. So it ends up being a gift for everybody. And hopefully you can feel that way when you compliment yourself in the mirror too. Thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy day to spend a few minutes here with me. I hope you enjoyed the sunrise, the beach, all my show and tell and chat today and my demos. Let us make time to create, share, and inspire today and every day. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and I'll see you tomorrow for the next episode of the Kristin Omdahl Show. Bye-bye.